So, Ralph, what is it a question of then? Is it a case of can't do the basics off the ball or won't do the basics off the ball? Danny Samuel, let's get right into the Manchester United situation in a moment. But before that, back in November, I was up in Glasgow and I was having a chat with Graham Souness about this. And even then, in November last year, Souness said to me, this thing with Rangnick on an interim basis, this won't work, it can't work.
This is the third interim manager since Fergie went. I don't get it. I'm not sure. I mean, the man's Rangnick's CV is not one you would go, wow, it doesn't jump out at you. He's not been super successful. I think he's won one trophy. His talent would appear, and we'll find out, would appear to go into a football club and create the structure for it to develop and improve in a 5 to 10 year period. Well, that's not what Man United need right now. Man United have an underperforming squad of players. Will this new guy who's never been in English Premier League be able to do that? I don't think so. I don't get this appointment on any level.
Do you, Danny? Do you still scratch your head at what they did?
When he did that interview, I thought he was correct, but I was open-minded enough to be proven wrong, because we have been before. Just because you haven't been in the Premier League doesn't mean you can't succeed. I get the feel. I've been watching United a lot since he's been in, and they're getting worse, not better. I think he looks a little bit. It looks a bit too much for him. I don't see enough authoritative leadership. You're having contradictions about whether one player's having a rest or whether they're dropping it, whatever. That I think it happened.
What does authoritative leadership look like in this particular incarnation?
It means owning performances, owning situations of players who are, why wouldn't you come out as a manager and provide simple clarity on the Lingard situation, on the Martial? If he's saying one thing, he's got to be sure. Then he's backtracking. Then he's going, I don't even know what really got. We still don't know who's right and wrong with the Lingard situation.
Two players that are leaving the club.
Yeah, but more importantly, that doesn't worry me as much as the way he's talking after games is bamboozling me. Because if he thinks that was acceptable against Southampton, I could have done more than 20 incidences of players not willing to do very simple things, which is tracking runners, winning a tackle, trying to do normal things that any football team across the country would do. They don't do it. The reason they don't do it is because there's no repercussions for not doing it, and he's not on them for not doing it, and he's not owning it. So I'd be coming out.
So he's out of his depth.
He's out of his depth. I think it looks that way.
Which players are we talking about?
Well, we could.
Which is start.
So there was examples of Sancho not tracking back. There was examples of Rashford, Pogba and Fernandes letting runners go, not going into tackles.
So Pogba's been a problem for 4 years, right? Sancho, and up until recently, couldn't trap a bag of cement.
He's not a problem.
We were talking about how Sancho couldn't do anything going forward, didn't have the pace to go past
he scored.
people.
He did all right going forward.
I'm saying that. So what we've got now is Sancho doing one part of the job and not the other. So previously, Sancho's stunk the place out for the entire season, being poor, and then there was a question about, has he actually got the pace to go past people? Rashford, we're talking about Rashford's problem since he's come back. So we've now got Sancho being offensively better, and we're now looking at the other side of his game. So when we talk about him being out of his depth, right, and we talk about
Rangnick,
a rabbit in the
head.
No, Rangnick. I'm talking about Rangnick. And we talk about this particular malaise that he's got there. The same group of players that are there have been allowed to develop a certain mindset for 3 years. Is it our belief that mindset can be changed around over 2 or 3 months? And some of the things they can do better. Rashford was better going forward. Sancho was better going forward. Certainly Sancho was. But prior to that, Sancho was a waste of time going forward.
Well, he wasn't a waste of time. What you're saying is this isn't all his fault, I think, is where you're going.
I'm saying it's not all as we're painting it.
I think he's inherited huge problems.
Yeah.
And I think it's maybe naive to think he's going to go in there and change the whole 11 and change the mindset quickly. But what you can't keep doing is have the same. I mean, what do they call it? Insanity, where you keep doing.
You keep repeating yourself, get the same outcomes. Yeah.
So when I've watched United more recently, and I've seen 3 out of the last 4 games, the same things keep happening, and there's no ownership or even recognition that he's seeing it and changing it. There are players in that who aren't playing at Manchester United who will do more than the players who are playing. The balance is wrong, which is his responsibility. I just always look at it in one way. Would the best managers I played under, or would Klopp and Guardiola, and Tuchel, the 3 best in our league at the moment, if any of them were at United, would they be putting up with what we're seeing? No chance. So what you could say is, well, he's got to get rid of 5-6 players, and you probably can't do that when they're earning 200 grand a week and you've paid 50 million, 100 million for them. Fine.
It took Klopp 3 years to get Liverpool into fine nick.
Correct.
So I don't understand the
But
point.
there was a
When
big
you
difference
say,
watching Liverpool's early...
Klopp or Tuchel go into... Man United is a very different animal. I'm not giving Rangnick excuse, by the way. I'm framing it in a certain way by saying, well, that's easy for us to say. It's easy for us to say what Tuchel would do when he goes in there or what Klopp would do when they go in there. But the reality of it is that when you go into something and you find that the problems are far more compelling than we give them credit for, then it's not so easy to turn around and say that Klopp would go in there and Tuchel would go in there and it would all suddenly change on a sixpence.
There's a difference between talking about tactical nous than actually just being able to motivate. So we talked earlier about Conte going in at Spurs, and we saw this immediate huge shift in physical output because of whether it's respect for him, because of what he demands, because of what he won't put up with, however he conducts himself on the training pitch. They're not allowed to go into match day and not give this huge difference in input was gargantuan. It was so evident. Now Rangnick's gone in there, and yes,
he's not getting it back from
under
them.
Ole, they were bad without the ball. You could play against them too easily, concede too many goals. That's fair. But they're getting worse.
So what is going on then? They can't do the
They're
basics.
so easy to play against. Now,
Or
someone
won't do the basics.
won't.
Won't.
Not can't.
Won't.
I've seen Pogba play for France and run about and mark people and head balls against Fellaini on the 6-yard box.
So
But they're not getting beat, Danny. I mean, I'm not trying to make a case
No,
for
but Simon,
United.
hang on a second. If they won't do the basics, they've down tools.
Well, this is where the leadership comes in. This is where you play.
So some of the top players at Manchester United in that team at the weekend against Southampton, for example, downed tools.
So don't down tools. No. You subconsciously don't give everything or switch on the same because
Can't be bothered.
The repercussions from the manager aren't there.
I get you.
I said this with Ole.
Okay, but so then look across the board at this.
Because they've drew a few games.
Okay, they've beaten Brentford. They should have smashed Middlesbrough into the next life in the cup.
didn't.
Right?
Yeah.
They've had 70. Hang on. They've had 75 shots on goal in the 3 games preceding Southampton.
Yeah.
75 shots on goal for a team that's out of sorts, doesn't do what it should do. What can a manager do about that level of profligacy? Because if you get a reasonable shot to goal ratio, which isn't one every 25 shots, is it? Right? If you look at that, these games would be different. And what we might be talking about clunky performances, but United winning games. They ain't getting beat.
You can use stats however you want. This Manchester United not getting beat. They're drawing against bottom of the league. Have won once, Burnley. They got for a period in the second half against Middlesbrough. They had plenty of chances conceded against them. They've played Southampton.
Beat West Ham.
But Simon, what's your point here? They're underachieving.
They beat Southampton.
Underachieving by what standard? By the standard that we...
By Manchester United.
But what standard is that then?
The top.
Hold on.
The fans expect.
Last year they finished second.
Hold on. This is a side that hasn't won anything for 5 years.
But Danny,
right? By what standard are they underachieving?
But Danny played.
By the standard that Solskjaer put in place for 3 years.
Danny's saying at the moment there are a bunch of players in there who won't do the basics.
Do you recognise this group of players? Right. A question for you, Danny. Against the same group of players that turned out that disgusting performance against Watford.
Do I what, sorry?
Do you recognise the similar traits, similar body language?
Yes.
This is the same group of players, Fernandes and all these sort of players that were so bad against Watford that they got spanked 4-1 or whatever it was, and they were just an absolute shambles at the facade of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as a manager. Had to go.
But nobody's arguing that.
I don't think I think they're better.
They're not.
Okay.
I can tell you they're not running around. They're not. And I tell you what, the way they set up, he played 3 in midfield, McTominay on his own, Fernandes and Pogba ahead of him. The Southampton midfield, I've never seen them have that much freedom and that much possession. They could have scored 5 in the second half.
So what Suna said was right about Rangnick, Dan. In your opinion, now this Manchester United team is no better than any of the ones in the latter stages of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's reign.
I don't think they're better now. Just because they've earned a few more points. Have you seen the fixture list Rangnick had since he's come in? They've played nobody.
Wait and see.
That's right.
They've played nobody.
I'll have a wager with you that this guy will do more than you think he'll do. I think he'll beat Atletico Madrid in the Champions League, and I think they'll do something. I think they'll finish 4th in the league. Irrespective of how they get there and how clunky they are, and what they'll do is they'll have a clean out. And people like Pogba that are no longer part of the bigger picture.
It won't be because
people
of
like
Rangnick.
Sancho that are getting found out for they're not Premier League top quality.
To keep it simple, you back Rangnick, Simon.
I do.
You don't, Danny.
If they finish in the top 4, it won't be because of him, be in spite of him.
Okay. 03717
he can't win then, can he? How can he win?
United fans,
they've got good attacking players.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.